Ladies and gentlemen, well,
Another week, another tangent.
and with us in a slightly different recording position from normal.
Yeah. We're kind of in the middle of a saga of filming, so
It's basically we've moved all our electronic equipment into another room for filming, so we're...
Yeah, if the audio sounds a bit different, then...
You know why. So, have you been alive?
I've been alive, yes. I tend to be alive when I do things.
Right. And how's it going for you?
Good. Might be some exciting news, depends, we'll see. I don't want to say anything just in case. But,
Okay, I know what that exciting news might be.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Is it Royal Mail are actually going to deliver your stuff?
Hopefully, otherwise I might just firebomb the place. Joke, not really. Don't see me Royal Mail.
Yeah. Okay. So, what have you been playing apart from Catch the Parcel?
Apart from playing a good game, Catch the Pigeon. Point to anyone who gets that reference. I have been playing a few games this week.
You care to name one?
First of which is Slain. I can't remember if I talked about that last week or not, to be honest.
Yeah, you said it was a bit disappointing, I believe.
Oh, I did. Okay, alright. I played that some more, and it's still cool, and they are working on it still, the problems I had.
You
so
mentioned.
I probably will revisit it at some point to show what it's like. Aside from that, I have been playing a game for review by the name of Forced Showdown, which I will do a video on at some point soon.
How is it?
It's pretty good.
Spoilers.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's kind of Hearthstone mixed with loud motorcycles.
Yeah. We're in the front of the house this time.
Yeah. So apologies, loud man and motorcycle. So basically, it's typical sort of kind of Torchlight-esque viewpoint where you're running around with a hero and you've got to kill enemies. You're kind of in like this sort of battle arena, sort of TV show where you're risking your life kind of thing. But at the start of each round, you get cards that will help you throughout your journey. So it could be like extra health or chance to crit or something like that. And you obviously get mana each turn, kind of like in Hearthstone. So it's an interesting mix of genres.
Do you pronounce it mana or mana?
Well, considering I just said mana.
No, I'm just saying typically because some people change pronunciation. So do you just say however or...
I always say mana, but I know in Hearthstone it's mana, but I always say mana. Just because, I don't know.
You're British.
I'm from the south. That's how we pronounce things down in the south.
Yeah, I usually say mana, even though I'm from the south.
Yeah, well, you have strangely northern tendencies when it comes to your word choice.
I would say it's more Americanized.
Well, you say bath and not bath, for example.
I would say it's mostly Americanized. That's why I spell like 90% American at this point. I'm from the internet.
You traitor! You traitor! You've gone to the colonists.
That's fine. They've got more web visitors than us. I'll pander to them. I know where my bread's buttered.
They don't even have real bread. It's more like cake.
It's a lie as well. I don't eat bread, so I'm easy either way.
Oh, man.
Anywho.
Aside from that...
And they wonder why they call it the TangentCast.
Anyway, other than that, I've mostly been playing Dark Souls because I can't play Dark Souls 3 yet. So yeah. yeah, it's giving me a proud face. What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, it's funny you mention that.
Is it Dark Souls 3 by any chance?
Well, one of the games that you were referring to, which you haven't been able to play yet, might actually be Dark Souls 3. And it's somewhat possible that I've been enjoying that.
Oh, good.
By the way, I kind of want to rabbit punch Namco for their whole retarded release scheduling.
It boggles my mind because here's the thing: it's like
the game's finished.
Staggered releases for the world make no sense in this day and age. No sense.
Especially when all the text is in English.
Yeah,
they've already got all the
it's the English version is clearly finished.
Do you know
because
what?
if you're on Xbox One, you can finagle your way to playing it fully voiced, fully subtitled, and everything in English.
You know what I don't understand as well? I'm not like, oh my god, I am a Souls master. In fact, I quite suck at the game. I mean, I beat the first boss without dying and all, but, that's not really major.
Yeah, well, they dialed the difficulty back for the start, so don't think too much of yourself just yet.
Oh, how's it going on Dark Souls 2 for you?
Dark Souls 2?
Yeah,
you mean the one we were playing together?
Yeah.
We haven't played it since. What do you mean?
Yeah. I've done pretty well on Bloodborne as well, which I think is like so much more punishing, so I think that's why. It's like, you basically feel like your hand's being held at the start of Dark Souls 3.
You were saying something.
Well, I was actually. So, it turns out what I don't understand is like the Dark Souls community, or rather the Souls community, are like really passionate about games, and it's pretty impossible to, at this point, A, avoid spoilers, or B, more to the point, the whole premise of Dark Souls is you want to explore and find everything together.
It's like the fans seem to understand better than Namco what one of the things that makes Dark Souls special. It is the surprise of what is this next boss going to look like.
You've seen some dude.
What is this next area going to look like?
You've seen some dude who's already completed the game in under 2 hours. And the fact is, you're going to get some folks who are going to rebuy the game on another format, or they're just going to know the game so well, so it's not going to be the sense for discovery anymore.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, yeah, you can avoid all that. You can. But it's hard to because it's absolutely everywhere, because you've got people who've been given press code, which is fine. We're not one of them. But never mind. But they're under an embargo where they can't show past a certain point. So their reviews are not the problem. They're not too spoilery. The problem is with the people who have finagled on Xbox One. Not that I blame them, because fair enough.
Well, I did it. But that's one of the reasons I've not been putting up tons of footage.
But those people who have downloaded it on Xbox One, they are obviously under no embargo. They are fully within their rights to talk about the game, show the game, whatever.
Now, as you know, on the channel, when I do Let's Plays, I have kind of an unwritten rule where I don't put up loads of footage at once, just because I want people to actually play the game and respect it a little bit.
If this was a normal case of everyone had the game, it wouldn't even matter, because everyone's got the game. But this is a very cynical decision in my mind from Namco, because it's pretty clear. Sorry about the ambulance, by the way.
Yeah, that's people like... That's not a Dark Souls fan had a heart attack.
Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, basically what they've done is they deliberately delayed the Western version 3 weeks or whatever.
And because you can see other people playing, that's the thing. Like, you know, the ghosts, their spirits.
Yeah. Well, let me get to my point. They deliberately delayed it 3 weeks so it can look good on their next fiscal report. That is the only reason they have done this. The English version is finished. That is clear by the fact that you can play it on Xbox One fully voiced. So it is a purely cynical decision, so Namco can look good to their investors or stockholders, whoever the balls. And that is what pisses me off.
Hey Namco, why didn't you use Tekken to do it? Oh wait.
Hey, that might come to PC if the rumours are true. So
yeah, it might do.
Oh, that would make me quite happy, actually. It'd be the first time I played Tekken in a while.
Apart from that, I've been playing the new Tomb Raider DLC.
Yes, we have a plot of that on the channel, do you not?
I do. I have to say...
Is that a plug I hear?
It is. I have to say, it's a lot more difficult than the base game. I think it's because the enemy waves, and that's the thing. I was approaching it like I have to be super stealthy. And then I was approaching it like, okay, I just need to shoot things, and you don't. You have to really kind of adjust your playstyle as and when for different areas, which is good. But I would say that, let's say for the sake of argument, medium is medium on base difficulty. I would say medium is hard on this difficulty.
Interesting.
It's not quite survival horror, but it's quite interesting how they've done it. And I quite like it. I think it's worth the... If you like Rise of the Tomb Raider and you like kind of... I would say the more actiony Resident Evils, like Resident Evil 5, then give it a shot. It's worth checking out.
Well, if you like the base game, then you're probably going to like the DLC for it.
It's quite weird though, because they take away all your weapons apart from like your bow at the start.
Well, otherwise you'd just be too stupidly overpowered.
I don't understand your point.
That is my point.
Oh, you do get to find weapons pretty quickly though.
Well, there you go then.
Exactly.
So is that what you've been playing? Dark Souls 3 and Rise DLC?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, let's move on to the news this week then. We have quite a few...
She's gesturing at me at the screen, like,
yes,
up the notepad.
Like, bring up the file with the news.
Yeah, we can't remember 5 points without that.
I guess the first thing is Final Fantasy. We finally know when it's going to come out.
Would you like to elaborate?
The 30th of September.
Is it possible that you're going to mark that day down?
Yes. It is.
Is it also possible, because they've announced a tentative possibility of a PC release, right? And this is just me speculating, that there's a part of you, and by part of you I mean all of your soul, that's like, please Square, please release a Kingdom Hearts on the PC.
Yeah, basically it's like, Hajime Tabata recently said that they've heard fans crying out for the PC version, and the call for that on PC is pretty high. And obviously, there is way more precedence for it now, with pretty much most of the Final Fantasy back catalogue now on PC. Not all of it, obviously, but most of it.
There's one good thing about releasing Kingdom Hearts 3 on the PC.
What's that?
I don't need to re-release all the games on it. You can just use emulator.
So yeah, I mean that would be awesome. I'd love to play Final Fantasy 15 on PC, and they have said they're considering it, but they didn't want to do it at the same time as developing the PS1 Xbox One version. And I said in my video, which you can watch if you like, that's probably for the best considering how stupidly long this game has been in development. If they added more time to work on a PC version, I'm pretty sure people would have thrown, a riot or something. So even if we have to wait...
If they hadn't announced the release date, we'd have never known.
Yeah, that's true, but still. So basically they're considering it, and if we do get it, it will most likely be a few months after the console release, but that's pure speculation.
Is it going to be like a leveling up system? So, for example, the PS4 and Xbox One are like level 10, and you buy the PC, and it's equivalent of being like level 99 with your 4K graphics.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I said, like playing Kingdom Hearts 3 on PC, I don't think anything would make me happier than that, to be honest.
What about playing it with 3 screens at 4K? With surround sound?
Oh, other than maybe Last Guardian on PC as well, that would be lovely, thanks.
Yeah. I think Sony are going to cater to that wish,
Nah, don't be silly. I mean, it's not like Bloodborne should really be on PC, but, it's not because reasons or anything. So,
yeah, I mean, they should do it.
They should.
I mean, there are some people who believe that Bloodborne 2 is going to come out, but I think they've kind of had enough of the...
From have said Dark Souls 3 is the last Souls game. However, they didn't really comment on Bloodborne, so there is still hope for Bloodborne. But from what Hidetaka said, I think they're kind of bored now of making the Soulsborne type of game. Well, not bored, but they've had their fill. They've been making the same type of game really for the last however many years now. And I think they kind of want to branch out and try new things, and I think that's good. Let's see what else they got up their sleeve. They've clearly shown themselves talented.
That doesn't sound like the game industry. Branch out, try new things that don't take money.
I would rather they leave Souls where it is, let it die in dignity with a final flourish, rather than dragging it through the dirt with 10 million sequels.
Yeah, but the thing is, they could keep releasing it and people are going to buy it because it's like,
Yeah, but they don't want to do that, and I respect that decision more than, hey, let's just make more games because it makes money, even though we've dragging it into the ground. Assassin's Creed.
I think it's okay as long as they keep bringing new monsters, new areas, new stories.
People probably wouldn't complain, but if they don't want to do it because they feel like they'd be repeating themselves, that's probably for the best.
Anywho, shall we move on?
What?
Shall we move on?
Yes. What thing should we talk about now?
When we talked about Square,
we did.
Would you like to talk about the Escapist?
They done blowed up.
Is that your contribution?
Well, no. Their Durham office closed down, and while they're not closed down the way game trailers were closed down not too long ago, that is a major office, and they now have relocated to Seattle, I think. Somewhere
that's not Durham.
Yeah, somewhere that's not Durham, basically. So the thing is, it's like, okay, yeah.
I contributed.
The website isn't shut down. Great. However, they did close an entire office with every single member of staff, bar none, losing their jobs. So, while it's great that Yahtzee isn't going to have to, jump ship quite yet, if I were him, would be preparing the lifeboats.
Well, he has got his YouTube channel, so if he started to monetize that at the very least, he could bring in...
I mean, if I were him, I would be planning YouTube, Patreon and everything, just in case the Escapist goes down.
Well, he's got his... to be honest, though, even if he didn't do that, he's got his games he's selling and everything, so he's pretty good. He's got games...
I don't think they're his main source of income, though. I mean, obviously, I don't know what
yeah, but they'll pay his gas bill.
Just judging from what he's said in his YouTube channel, they're like but his books and his games are, they're nice, they're extra, but they're not gonna keep them afloat just by themselves just yet. So
well, maybe if you stop giving away the games, that would probably help.
So yeah,
he needs to start adding some of those microtransactions.
Oh God, don't. So basically, I think the Escapist is now in its death throes, but I could be wrong.
Hopefully not.
I mean, I would love to be wrong about this. I'd love for it to not die.
The thing is, you say that, but what talent have they got? Because I used to watch...
It's mostly Yahtzee now.
Yeah, I mean, I used to watch, some of the the critics on it, like Jim and those dudes. But
well, I mean, back in the day, it was Yahtzee, it was Extra Credits, it was Jim. I used to watch Movie Bob back in the day as well, and now it is all only Yahtzee.
Yeah, it's like he can't pay for dem service himself.
No, I'm sure he brings in the views and that, but I mean, on my video that I did about this, I asked people like, what do you go for the Escapist nowadays? Is it mostly for Yahtzee, or is that just like my circle of friends who say that? And a lot of the comments were, I only go there for Yahtzee, or someone said that they hadn't gone back since Jim had left, and various things like that. So it seems I was right. Yahtzee is the main draw, and as successful as his show is, I don't think it can keep an entire staff afloat by itself.
No, basically.
So there you go. That's not good.
Did you want to skip you to the next point?
Yes, let us move on, shall we? What would you like to discuss next?
Well, I said you. I was letting you lead because I led the last point, don't you know? I'm fair. I'm equal opportunity.
Well, there's some more stuff about PlayStation 4K. Why don't you enlighten us on that?
Well, I'll keep it brief because I've already done massive analysis on it, and I know Amy's already like frightened and scared of how long I'll talk about the point. So basically, the rumor has it that the system is either going to cost $400 or $500. That depends on the CPU. They don't know whether the CPU is going to be essentially the same, maybe with a slight overclock, or whether it's going to be entirely new design, which is probably going to be Zen based. The GPU is supposedly twice as powerful, but smaller, which is most likely means it's going to be Polaris based design. Some person who will remain nameless actually was trying to counterpoint me that Polaris is going to be too expensive a console. Well, no, Polaris is just like the next design. It's basically shrinking the process and moving on. It's like saying to you, well, the GTX 760 was more expensive than the GTX 680 when it was released. It just doesn't work. So we're probably going to see a new version of the GPU, maybe slightly redesigned. And it's going to be faster, leaner. We don't know if there's going to be more RAM. Hopefully there will be. And basically, from what we understand, let's say you're going to run a game at 1080p 30 on the regular PS4. It's going to run at 1080p 60 on the PS4K with maybe a bit of extra horsepower. They're saying it's at least twice as powerful, maybe slightly more, depending on the CPU. Microsoft have said they don't give a shit. Basically, they're happy just to release the Xbox One, and I quote, just care about the big number upgrades. They say basically that they don't think that the PS4K is going to offer enough extra performance to make customers cough up, and it's led to a little bit of divisiveness in the community, and that's me being generous. Basically, here's the way you've got to look at it. Option A, Sony have released a system that's costing you $500, potentially $400 to $500. Let's split the median and say $450. That's going to essentially let you play games at double the resolution or what have you. But if you look at that versus every other console increment, that's kind of shit.
Yeah, that's what concerns me about the whole PlayStation 4K thing, is like, realistically, we're probably going to see a new console generation in the next 3 or so years, right?
Well, I think what's going to happen, my gut feeling is this. The PS4K is going to release to Q1 2017, that's the rumour. Microsoft have said they don't care. They only care about the big upgrades. I would not be surprised. Let's ignore the NX for a second, because obviously we don't know when that's going to come out.
No.
We don't even know what the specs of that machine are. But let's just assume, for sake of argument, that Nintendo are out of it. We'll talk about the NX in a moment anyway. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you've got your PS4K, which is released Q1 2017. I would not be surprised if Q4 2017 or Q 2017 anyway, we start hearing about the next Xbox, and Microsoft just reads it. And I'll tell you why, because Microsoft are in a better position than Sony. And you might scoff, you might say, well, dude, they're being outsold. Yeah, but do Microsoft care? Because the thing is, if the PC does well, they're good. They're making money off the Windows Store, they're making money off Windows, they're making money off games development, they're able to sell their releases. They don't care. If the Xbox One and the Xbox Division does really well, they don't care. They're also really good. So I'm not saying they're in a better position financially than Sony in terms of the established marketplace, but they're in a better position in than Sony in terms of diversification within the ecosystem. And Sony don't. All Sony has is the PlayStation. So if 2017 rolls around, and little Johnny's looking at Christmas and he's like, gee whiz pop, I want to buy a new system. And if it's cheap, you're going to buy the Xbox One potentially. or you might buy an Xbox One, you might buy a PS4. If assuming the PS4K didn't come out, because the difference between the Xbox One and PS4 is it's big, but 900p versus 1080p, it's big. But are you really going to care if the
most people were going to buy on games?
Exactly. Whereas on the other hand, Sony can argue, well, the PS4K by that point the price would have come down a little bit, and there's definitely going to be a difference. But for Microsoft, they're in a good position as well, because let's say you've got $700, $800 or pounds, you can easily buy yourself a high-end PC, which is still going to probably smack the PS4K.
I just worry that that if Sony are doing this PlayStation 4K,
they are doing it. It's not even a question.
Well, they haven't confirmed it, so let's just.
The reason developers have confirmed it.
I know,
Industry
but my rule is always until it comes from the mouth of the developer. I always say allegedly.
Developers have said it.
I meant Sony.
I put it this way, I'll be more surprised if they don't do it.
I'm with you, but I'm just saying we just need to keep in mind that Sony haven't confirmed it yet. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, let's say that they do this and it comes out start of next year or very end of this year, which is unlikely.
No, it's saying Q1 2017.
So let's say Q1 2017, so like March or something like that. Okay, then what, 2-3 years later we get the PlayStation 5? That's going to just annoy people that they've just dropped down like however much it is for the 4K, and then not that long later Microsoft probably comes out with the Xbox 2 or whatever the balls they're going to call it, and that's probably going to be better than the PlayStation 4K.
Oh, it's going to be much better.
And then all of a sudden Sony are like, oh crap, now we have to release the PlayStation 5, and people who buy the 4K are pretty much screwed over. So I just don't see how this is going to end well for Sony.
You know what I think they should have done for this console generation? They should have done it a TikTok strategy. Basically, what you should do, release the PS4, and that would be year 1, right? Mm-hmm. So year 2 comes around, there's no changes. So developers have year 1, they have year 2. Year 3 comes around, and let's say halfway through that year, there's an upgrade box which literally plugs into the system, increases the performance of the machine. That's it. So it's not super tons of extra cash. It might cost like $100, which is more expensive, but I think people would be willing to pay it. And that's an optional device on most games. A few games are going to require it, but most won't. And then the next year comes around, no change, and then the new system's released at the end of that last year, of the 5th year. And I think if they're going to do games and incremental upgrades, I think that's how Microsoft are going to consider doing it. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got bad feelings about it, so we'll see. Anyway, I guess we should move swiftly onto the NX, since we kind of touched on it briefly there.
I felt dirty when I did as well.
I mean, obviously we know literally zero about the NX. We have heard plenty of weird and wonderful rumours, but nothing concrete. All Nintendo have said is that they'll discuss it this year, and I've heard rumblings that it'll come out this year, which I would assume it will, but obviously we don't know. My prediction is either we'll find out what the NX is at E3 or Gamescom at the pure latest, and then it will come out for Christmas, because it's going to coincide most likely with Zelda Wii U, which I can't remember when that comes out off the top of my head. But they're going to do they're going to do Twilight Princess again. Basically, they're going to release that on the Wii U, and they're going to release that on the NX, and it's going to be an NX launch title. That is my prediction for the NX. But we have heard some rumours regarding system performance, I believe.
Yeah, essentially it's going to be faster than the Xbox One PS4. But let's face it, 4 years after, 3 years after, whenever.
That's not really hard.
Yeah, that's like me saying to you, well, gee,
So do you think it's going to use like Polaris or something, maybe?
Well, AMD did release a statement ages ago that they were working with another manufacturer, which I believe they said console specifically, to release hardware.
I remember this rumor, yeah.
But technically that could have even been Sony again with the PlayStation 4K.
It's possible, yeah.
But they did say it was a different company.
So it's probably Nintendo. Let's just leave it at that.
Now, AMD and Nintendo have had a relationship before. They were courting. They saw each other. They they weren't quite getting married, but they were having a good dating relationship, especially with ATI. I think that I don't see another logical option x86 wise. The only other option for them would be a PowerPC based system, but I think right now, if Nintendo are going to release something that's easy to develop for, which is the rumour we keep hearing, you need x86, because otherwise people are just going to get pissed. And to be honest with you, Nintendo's biggest biggest enemy is itself. Because it's like they can release the NX, but unless they change their policies for advertisement for YouTube, for the developers, for all of that
they
stuff.
only just got a working online matchmaking and friending system in 2016.
Yeah, and that's my point.
So when it comes to anything online, they're pretty weird.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons the PlayStation 4 has done so well is the whole social ecosystem that Sony have built in. I mean, you know, these guys, Remedy, for Quantum Break, they actually have an option to turn off licensed music while you're... if you want to record gameplay. Now, that shows me that Microsoft, Remedy, all these guys, and I don't think Remedy used to be that favourable for YouTube. I could be wrong.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
But regardless, it's like that's how games are moving now. And honestly...
Game developers and publishers are, most of the time nowadays, working with YouTubers to either provide them with a game that has nice little features like turning off licensed music or putting in integrated Twitch features and other stuff like that, even directly working with them for a promotion, or even just, hey, here's a free code, stream our game all you want or whatever.
Yeah, we're not that big, but we still get codes constantly.
Yeah, I mean, we're, in comparison to the big channels, we are fairly small. As much as we have, we're doing pretty well. We are a small channel, and yet even we have seen developers approach us about, hey, do you want to cover our game or whatever? Because people have come around to the fact that it directly benefits them to do so. So to see companies like Nintendo and Square Enix, the Japanese side, and Capcom, the Japanese side as well, be so backwards about it, does boggle my mind somewhat.
Yeah, I mean, for example, we get hardware, even companies will be like, yeah, we're releasing a new version of our game engine. Did you want to cover it? Did you want to cover the fact that we've released a new, phone or a new driver revision?
Yeah.
And we get these emails constantly, like through our contact.
It's nice to see from Remedy and Microsoft that they've said, hey, look,
Exactly.
here's a little button to make a YouTuber's life easier, because licensed music is the bane of your existence on YouTube. So.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's about that.
Yeah, one last thing I want to quickly mention before we wrap up is that the latest Nvidia drivers are balked, apparently.
Which versions? So many recently.
4.57, I think. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, they've got such a screwy number.
I did a video on it yesterday. All the details are in there, but basically, if you haven't already upgraded to the latest drivers, don't. That is my advice to you. Just wait.
See, my thing about this is people have these little notions of like AMD are better, Nvidia are better with their drivers, but each company at some point or another fucks up with their driver revisions. And I honestly don't think at this point Nvidia, AMD, in terms of their drivers, there's much of a difference. Back in the day, like 2 years ago, I think Nvidia had a clear driver advantage. They were smoother, they were better, they just were easier to use. I'm not saying there were massive differences. I'm not saying like you would hate AMD, but Nvidia were definitely easier. Now it's like both companies are kind of making the same mistake, and there are some differences if you're running Linux and stuff. But
at least AMD's drivers aren't literally killing GPUs. There have been reports that people have literally had their GPUs kills, and there's been reports of crashes, blue screen of death, visual artifacting.
AMD's did have some problems back in the day with blue screens. Not as bad. I don't think it killed GPUs though. I don't want to
that's allegedly. Obviously, I haven't experienced this myself, so I can't say. But there have been a few people who have commented on my previous video saying that that's happened to them.
I would be fucking angry.
There's a huge thread on Reddit and a huge thread on the Nvidia forums about all sorts of people experiencing all sorts of problems. And the thing that makes this even worse is that this happened fairly recently with, I think, the drivers for the Division. I think
it was the Division, I believe. Or maybe the one before that.
So the drivers that were meant to make it, the Division playable as it could be, was literally doing this. It was killing GPUs. It was causing all sorts of problems. So this is the second time this has happened in like 3-4 weeks, and I'm just like, what are you doing, Nvidia? Stop.
It's the way it's meant to be played. Hey, you know what they're trying to do?
No.
Their graphical effects are becoming so realistic, right? They're actually going to the GPU and they're really setting things on fire. So it's like, you don't need to worry about physics smoke. You don't need to worry about...
you've got real smoke.
Exactly. It's not... Literally, you've got like real rendered smoke. It's like they're gonna release the source code of this next, and they're gonna be like, yeah, GameWorks implementation, get real smoke.
Now the next move will be like, instead of like playing a game, they're just gonna pay someone to come to your house and beat you up, and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, or like, you're playing like a World War game and there's a grenade go off. No, that's your power supply. Don't worry about it.
Anyway, all joking aside, just avoid it for now until Nvidia sort things out. So
yeah, I'm sure that Basically, here's my rule: get someone else to install the drivers first.
Oh dear. Anyway, anything else we want to discuss before we wrap things up for the week?
Boobies.
They're good. What about them?
That's pretty much it, really.
Oh, okay. All right then. Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening this week. We'll see you next week. Hit us up with any questions at the usual places, social media, comments, and contact at RedGamingTech if you so desire. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
It's gonna still be a thing.
It is. Bye.
Pretty much.